Hello, and welcome to Coffee with Coach Allan. It is Tuesday morning, December 10th. I am so glad you're here. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a topic that comes up and actually causes a few arguments on the internet, as a lot of things do. But this is one of the more bizarre ones for me because I don't understand. Well, I don't understand one side of the argument, which is not always the case. Sometimes I can't actually see two sides of an argument, but there seems to be a contingent out there that when we say eat real food, um, they want to argue that the processed stuff is real food. And I don't understand it. I do not understand it at all. But I'm going to do my best to help you define what real food is so you can make the decision for yourself. Okay. If we look back at the history of man and what man ate as a species for most of the time that we've existed, we would be limited to meats, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, and roots. That's it. That's what our ancestors ate for the longest time. Now, prior to that, if you go back and you follow evolution, yeah, you can say that there was species associated with humans that just ate fruits. That eating animals was kind of something that came on more recently, which is true. But for a long, long, long time, we've eaten animals, we've eaten plants, and that's pretty much it. Grains did not exist until about maybe 10, 15,000 years ago. And the human body does not evolve that fast. So, while it is something that can provide calories and some nutrition, you have to be careful about the things that you call food. Just having calories and some nutrition does not make it food. And that's my premise. Um, if you go into a grocery store today and you walk around, you see all the things on the shelves. They're not refrigerated. They keep for years, months and years, right there on those shelves in those boxes, and that's not normal. Food, be it meat and vegetables, if you set it on the counter, is really only going to last a short amount of time before it goes bad. Meat and eggs, a matter of hours, days, and weeks that it could go bad. Usually, depending on whether it gets contaminated with bacteria or not. But in general, they're not going to sit on the counter and be good for you weeks and days later, months later. Whereas the boxed food, the processed food that's in a box, a bag, a jar, or a can can sit there for months and years. Just go in and look at the expiry date. They have expiry dates on them because they're going to sit on the shelves for years. And you don't know how long that food, you don't know how long that's been sitting on the shelves. So, in a general sense, when you're looking for food, I would stick to the outside of the grocery stores. But even better is if you can source that food locally because you know that it's going to be taken care of, you know that it's going to be healthier, you know that it's going to be more nutritious. So, locally sourced food typically is going to be better for you than the food you can find in grocery stores that's been brought from locations potentially far, far away for various reasons. But if it's in a box, bag, jar, or can, it has to have one thing in the United States, and that is a label, a nutrition label. When you look at a nutrition label, one of the first things you should look at is the ingredients list. Everything on that ingredients list should be food. Okay, now real food, if you go in and buy some chicken legs, say, or buy some fish, uh, it doesn't have a label. Why does it not have a label? Because it's food. It doesn't need a label. The ingredients are chicken. It's the chicken. That's it. Now, you look on ingredients for something that's in a box, bag, jar, or can, you're going to see a lot of chemicals. Those are artificial colors. Those are artificial flavors. They may call them natural flavors. Awesome. All natural means is that that thing exists naturally in the world. They still probably manufactured it in a factory to make it, but they can say it's natural because it exists naturally. That's all that word means. And so most of the words you see on the label are marketing words. They are not words intended to really inform you of what you're eating. So what's going on here? Well, number one, uh, it has to keep. If they can't keep it on the shelves, then they can't make money in their minds because the transportation cost to get it there, keep it there, do it quickly enough would overrun the cost of the food. So to make sure that we have plenty of food for everybody, they do these processing things. Now, not all processing is bad. Uh, Drying techniques, pickling techniques, things like that can keep food in a good state for a fairly long period of time. Freezing is another example. If I'm going to go to a grocery store and buy fruits and vegetables, I don't mind buying them from the freezer section. I don't mind buying meat from the freezer section, only because, again, I know that the freezing was a way to preserve it where they didn't have to add chemicals and other additives to keep it. But if you're looking at the stuff in the middle of the store that's sitting on a shelf, it's in a box, bag, jar, or can, I'm not going to regard that as food. There's a large percentage of people who will. Again, as I've said earlier in this, I don't understand why they want to call that real food. I guess because they like it. They want people eating hamburger helper and other stuff that is not really food. Um, and other than getting paid to do it, I don't understand. Now, people will say the reason they feel that way is that there are no studies to prove that it's bad for you. But let me ask you this question. Who gets paid to prove that something's bad for you versus who gets paid to sell you something? So telling you something is natural to sell something, now you have a motive. Now you have a reason for them to have a study. I can say this is natural because it occurs naturally in the environment. Therefore, this is natural, even though it naturally wasn't there before you added it. And so just realize that the money behind the food industry is going to drive a lot of the behavior with regards to studies and otherwise. There are some schools and universities that are stepping up and doing some things. I talked about a study yesterday where they talked about depression and anxiety. I talked about another study yesterday where they looked at the behavior of children on processed foods. And so there is some evidence coming out that some of this processed stuff is not good for us. Now, I also saw recently that they're going to bring in the new administration in the government. Again, not going to get political, but the new administration in the government is going to try to get the FDA to ban food dyes and some other things. If the science backs that, then I can understand it. I'm not a fan of the government stepping in. I think you should step in. That's what I think. I think you should step in and look at your own nutritional needs. You should step in and look at what you're eating. You should step in and see what the science says about these things. But my perspective is if it's not real food, I really don't want to eat it. Do I? Occasionally, yes. But it's a very, very, very small percentage of the total amount of food that I bring in is coming from something that's in a box, bag, jar, can. I can tell you that right now. I don't eat out a lot. I cook most of my own food. Most of my food is single ingredient. It is a meat, a vegetable, or a fish and a vegetable, and that's pretty much it. So I get it. That other stuff is awesome. It's great. It's also not helping you lose weight if you're eating those processed things. If you're overweight and you're trying to lose weight, the best thing you can do is get off the processed foods. So with that, I'll just say real food is stuff that you know is food. It grew, it lived, it had life, and it gives you life because it has nutrition. If it's in a box, bag, jar, or can, you should be leery. You should be paying attention because there's probably some things in there that aren't food and aren't serving you. And That's your decision. That's your choice. You get a choice every single time, and you choose what you eat. I choose real food.